Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Terry Bonfiglio, the Director of Global Consulting Solutions here at Cartus, and I'm excited to spend the next hour together talking about U.S.-Canada move drivers and disruptors. In today's discussion, I'll be asking my panelists to share real-life experiences managing their inter-country programs. We'll talk about challenges and innovative ways they've overcome hurdles to meet business objectives, all while driving a positive employee experience. I actually wanted to take the time to introduce our panelists. The first panelist is Amy Spiker, Global Talent Mobility Leader from Eaton. Hi, Amy.
Hi there. Happy to be here.
Excited to have you. And we have Anna Siri, Manager Domestic Mobility at Textron. Hey, Anna.
Hello, everybody. Great to be here.
Fantastic. And I know that Joey Ching is joining us today. She may be having a technical difficulty. Joey, are you there? Well, we'll certainly bring her into the conversation as soon as she's able to show up. So I thought it would be helpful for us just to start things off by looking at some of the information related to the survey. And then what I was going to do is, as I ask the first question of each panelist, I'll have you just do a quick intro and then answer your question. Does that work? Yes, okay, lots of head nods there. Thank you. So again, here's a QR code for the full survey if you'd like to take a shot of that right now, or again, pick it up in the Q&A. And I would just say that what stood out for us in this year's survey, and it's an area that we'll talk about, is really the employee, right? So we had 106 respondents to the US and Canada domestic mobility survey, which is great. There was a nice mix between current internal Cartus clients and external corporates. So it was a really nice balance of feedback that we got. And I would say that besides the employee experience, which seems to present itself very strongly around flexibility and making sure there's a connection with their organization and really attracting and retaining the right talent. We also saw on the area of challenges, cost, which is no surprise. And then, of course, the focus on mobility teams looking to create efficient and effective ways to support their internal stakeholders. So we'll talk about some of those things today. I want to go on to the next slide. Keep this part short and sweet. I did want to just post some of the stats that I thought were relevant. You may find others when you look at the survey. We won't have time to talk about everything as much as we would love to, but we will focus on several of these today. There was a Mobility Matters podcast I held with Doris Eng from Medtronic probably back in April. We're going to post a link to that podcast here in the Q&A as well. It was a really great discussion. I think you'll enjoy listening to it. One of the other things I'll mention before we move on is that I did attend a recent client conference, and we had 39 corporates there. And during one of our sessions, we placed a couple of polls up. One of them was around talent-related challenges. And although it didn't surprise me, it did validate for me that tracking remote hybrid workers and attracting and retaining top talent were the two key challenges that kind of raised to the surface for them. And then we also asked a question about changes in DEI strategy. We know from the US perspective, the US position changes that happened this year have caused some organizations to have to step back and take a look at that topic. I was pleased to see that about 61% really made no changes to their program or policy. And although we did see a small percentage of 10% moving away, we would say that the sentiment overall was inclusivity and focus on the employee experience, wellness, and family units was really at the forefront still. So something I thought would be helpful to share. Okay, I'm ready to jump in. So why don't we open this up and get started. So I was going to talk about the employee experience first. I thought that'd be a good place to start. And Anna, perhaps we'll get started with you. I know the employee experience is one of, if not the key focus at Textron. I'm wondering if you can share some examples of your strategies, best practices on ways you deliver a positive employee experience for your domestic moves.
I'm happy to share just a little bit about me. I've been in the mobility space for, let's just say, over 20 plus years or so, and I'm in my 5th year here at Textron. Before Textron, I was in the RMC space where I was in operations and account management roles. As far as what we do at Textron, we believe in communicating across all lines of businesses. We utilize our intranet as our key communication tool, and we post all of our policies and relocation documents there for easy access for all of our employees and our HR counterparts. Recently, we started creating AI-generated videos to help explain specific domestic and international policy components, such as expense management, home sale, immigration, et cetera. So again, we just started that tool and anxious to see how well it's received. We often participate in discussions with our HR business partners and or our employees who may have unique situations going on. As you know, every relocation is different, and we like to talk to everybody and provide guidance on how to best proceed. And sometimes those discussions require that we have to be a little bit flexible in our program. We've learned to be a little more stealth and work with each employee. There may be cases where we approve a policy exception in lieu of other benefits, and that helps us keep the cost neutral while also meeting the employee's needs. I guess that covers it right now, Terry.
Yeah, no, you covered a lot. That's fantastic. And I loved about with using integrating that in a way that can foster education, awareness, and clarity. And I would say that one of the other things that was mentioned when I had that internship podcast was Doris talked about doing podcasts for their employees. I thought that was a really innovative idea. I think another piece is really that flexibility component that you talked about. Well, you may be managing more traditional activities with your employees. I know that Eaton, you actually have done a lot of work in the flexibility space. And I would love to be able to talk a little bit about, we had moved to a Core Flex program with you. I think it's been a couple of years, and you actually did a podcast with us, which we're going to post a link to. It was a really good podcast. But I'd like to fast forward and ask you, how is that going today? What are the results of that program? Are you really driving the employee experience that you anticipated when you rolled out Core Flex?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to talk about it. So just a quick little bit about me. I've been with Eaton for 28 years. I've been in a variety of HR business partner roles and corporate HR roles, and I've been managing mobility for the last 15. And I absolutely love the variety and complexity of mobility and learn something new every day. With regard to employee-driven Core Flex, we've been on this journey for 6 years, and we've now transitioned all of our core policies or main policies for both domestic and international to an employee-driven Core Flex approach. And it's working great for us. We've learned a lot along the way. So we were an early adopter, but we certainly learned from those that went before us, and we've learned from those who went after us as far as other companies. We've had the opportunity to expand our benefit offerings with employee Core Flex without increasing our spend. So we offer a lot more options to employees, and it allows them to customize their relocation package based on what their family's priorities and needs are. That's worked really well. We definitely continue to refine it. So we look very closely at spend. We look very closely at benefit utilization. I mentioned we expanded our offerings. So there's a lot of different things we offer. So we monitor how things are, what's being used, what do people like, what's the feedback. We look at feedback regularly, and we've made adjustments feedback as we go along, whether that's from the employees who are relocating or from the HR business partners. We've made adjustments along the way. So it's been a great experience for us, and we've definitely continued to learn and refine, and we'll continue to do that as well.
I'm happy to hear that you're getting the results you anticipated. And I would say that we are definitely seeing a trend, a little bit of speed picking up with clients' interest in that area. So you being an early adapter is really important, from a networking perspective for those clients that you get to interact with. They may ask you questions about that. So thank you for sharing that with us. One of the other things that we were talking about is resistance to relocation. And I think that, from the survey, 86% of the respondents told us the number one reason for employees turning down a relocation was tied to personal circumstances and family. And so I think it leads me into talking a little bit about trailing partners, right? And so I'll just continue with you for a second. So really, the trailing partner can deeply impact the success of a relocation. We all know that. At Eaton, when it comes to domestic moves, how do you make sure the relocating family, particularly the partner, feels fully supported?
So with the Core Flex approach, it's really allowed us to offer more benefits in the space of supporting partners and families. So we offer partner and family acclimation support at different tiers, and there's different levels that employees can choose, whether that's for the partner's career coaching or to get connected with resources in the area. It really helps them to integrate into the new location that they're moving to. There's other benefits that we're offering that also, I think, support that integration process as well. We offer wellness support and some other benefits that kind of non-traditional that we didn't offer in the past that help with that whole process, the relocation process and the move to the new location.
Have you received or had anybody come to you and said that really wowed me, that really was something I wasn't expecting, or there was something there that was so unique for me?
I think that the wellness benefit in particular has been popular, and just seeing the utilization and hearing the feedback, I think people appreciate the flexibility, and to have those different options if based on what their needs are with their spouse or their family. We do get general feedback that works well, and it's available, but they can use it if they want it. So
I think sometimes just seeing it, right?
Having it and providing them the information, and then they can tailor it into their package if that's something they're interested in having.
I love that. Thank you very much. So, Anne, I wanted just to shift a little bit. I know you have a large home sale program at Textron. And I was wondering if there are any specific policies within home sale that you feel help you avoid the resistance to relocation.
Well, we definitely have a traditional home sale program. Probably many of you who've been in the industry for a while remember it from years past, where it was a guaranteed buyout program, where a loss on sale is offered, as well as home sale incentives. So we still offer that to core management level employees. With the changing of the real estate markets, we did recently tighten up list price cap percentages. We dropped everything down to the employee must list within 2% of the broker's market analysis initially. And then when the appraised value comes out, they have to, again, adjust their price within 2% of the appraised value. We just started that this year, and so far we're seeing decent results. We're not taking a ton of homes into inventory, which is nice. I mean, at the end of the day, our goal is to help the employee get the highest price for their home, and we also want them to receive their home sale bonus, which we still offer. And they also have the ability to sell their house within 97% of the appraised value as well. So we have a lot of incentives for them to market from a pricing standpoint accurately, so that they can get as much as they can for their home within the shortest amount of time.
Yeah, you really are investing, and I think it is an investment, right? Because if you can smoothly transition them, they can be productive faster and create more value, and that connection and that recall that they have about the way they were treated really does develop into actions in their career, I imagine. So the other thing I was thinking about, we were talking about some of the other actions that you've taken. I believe you told me a little bit about it's not a fix-up, but like you get the BMA, the broker market analysis. Tell me a little bit about what we were chatting about there.
So we recently just implemented I'll call it a fix-up allowance. Basically, when the two brokers provide their market analyses, Cartus will send us a summary of those two BMAs and what the recommendations were from pricing, as well as any other recommendations the realtors felt needed to happen to put the house in the best showing condition. So in cases where, maybe the house needs a good cleaning or a couple rooms painted, we'll get those recommendations now. And if it's warranted, I'll authorize a certain dollar amount for the employee to get the work done, and then they can submit for reimbursement to us. So it's just our goal we want to put the house in the best showing condition possible so that
Yeah.
we can attract the best buyer in the shortest time frame.
Yeah,
So.
we all know the first 3 weeks, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I actually wanted to move on. I don't know if Joey was able to join us. I didn't see if she popped up. I don't want her to miss the conversation if she's here.
We don't see her, Terry, but we're reaching out.
No worries at all. I'm sure that she probably had little green men in her computer today. No worries. So I think we'll move on to process optimization. And I think really looking inwardly. I'm sorry, Amy, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to add, when we had talked before, just a couple of things maybe to add on to the home piece of it. For our homeowners, some of the things that we've done over the last couple of years related to some of the challenges with higher interest rates or maybe less inventory, we've added a temporary mortgage buy down. So we basically transitioned our discount points into a temporary mortgage buy down. So it provides a lower house payment for the first few years of the move. So hopefully eases that transition into the new location with a higher interest rate. We provide a core benefit, but we also allow employees to use their flex points toward that too, so they can build and really increase that buy down amount for those first few years. We also offer an incentive rent benefit to our homeowners. So if they don't want to, or they're maybe not in a position to purchase in the new location, we provide a subsidy toward the rent for a period of time. So those couple of options also help, I think, for the homeowners, and as far as making it easier for them to transition.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because it makes me think about just the current environment, right? And we always have these ebbs and flows in our housing environments, whether you're in the U.S. or in Canada. I know Canada is highly challenged with housing, hence the prohibition that they have in place. But I think that in the area of housing, knowing that the mortgage rates are stabilizing, you still have a high percentage of people that have rates that are below 5%, below 4%. So that really is top of mind. And it feels like such a financial burden, but I think it's really important that we also help an employee understand the broader picture, that they may have earned equity on their home that they're selling, and they may be able to negotiate more aggressively on the home that they're buying, depending on the market they're going in. So it's not just one thing, but I think a lot of the things you're talking about are super helpful in helping them get over that hurdle to make the decision about a move. I think we'll go ahead and jump into process optimization. Does that work? Terrific. So I know that improving in-house processes and optimization, I had noted earlier, was one of the top 3 priorities. So back to Amy for a moment. I know this has been a big focus for you over the past 12 months. I was wondering if you might be able to share some of the initiatives that you've implemented at Eaton to streamline your internal dialogue and support for your stakeholders.
Yeah, absolutely. So employee experience has been a big focus for a few years. And I would say in the last 12 months, we've been focused not only on that, but on our internal stakeholders. So last year, one of the things I did was build microsites for mobility and immigration within our HR library. So it's not creating necessarily new information, but it's taking the information we have and organizing it, making it hopefully easier to navigate and find for our HR partners around the world. So those microsites are out there, and that seems to be helping our HR partners find the information. Another thing that I'm currently working on with partnering with our HR OpEx team is we're working on what we call a mobility service for our global HR population, where they can have a consistent experience, have consistent information available to them, where they can request to get a cost estimate, to initiate a relocation. If they need support or have a question, they can go through that service. So we're really, really close to going live with that. I'm really excited about that too, because I think that's going to help a lot, help our HR community, and in turn will also help me as well, because it'll make the processes run more smoothly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. If you could organize the information and organize how it gets responded to. But I know you were working on that for quite a while. So I'm really excited that you've been able
Yeah,
to get that to a finish line or
yeah,
almost to a finish line.
yep.
So, Anna, I also wanted to know what strategies you've adopted to help support your colleagues and stakeholders at Textron.
Absolutely. I think my recurring theme is communication here. Since we have a number of business units, it's really important to make sure all of our HR business partners and talent acquisition teams are fully up to speed on our process and procedures. So I provide semi-annual training to our business units just to ensure that they understand what to do, when, and why, and just fully engage them and make sure they understand the what's and the whys. We always also engage the HR business partners if there's any kind of escalation of some sort so that they are fully aware of what's going on. And then in 2024, we recently streamlined our relocation repayment collection process. And similar to what Amy does, we provide tools online for our HR business partners to obtain through a SharePoint site so that they can gather the details that they need for the employees that they're researching. And it's really helped enable them to be more proactive when an employee does end up leaving the organization. And it's eliminated multiple manual labor intensive steps that we had in place previously. So I think it's been very well received across all business units, and it's running smoothly, thankfully.
I love that. And I just think about, the time that you're actually saving, if there's a way to track that time. We'll talk about data analytics in a little bit, but that's what always comes to mind for me is like, how do I demonstrate how I can transition my time to be more helpful and be more available? And I think those were great examples. I know I was talking to another corporate recently, and I thought they had an interesting approach to this as well, where they actually went into the stakeholder documentation that they use in their work streams and added their components within that documentation. So they didn't have to remember to go somewhere else or come to the mobility owner just to ask the questions. I didn't read the instructions. I want to ask the question. So I think there's some fabulous innovative ideas out there. So thank you for sharing that. I think that in the survey, I know that about half of the respondents in the domestic one said that they were interested in doing a policy review this year. And when I think back of the global one that we did in 2024, that was an even higher number. So I'd be interested to know, Amy, do you have specific intervals when you do these policy reviews? What drives that for you? What causes you to stop and do that? You talked a little bit about that earlier.
Yeah, so for us, we don't have a set policy review time frame that we have, but every year I'm updating policies. So there's a few policies that I'm updating each year. For those policies, I'm doing some kind of a fairly in-depth benchmark, and then just ongoing with all of the policies, just keeping a pulse on what's happening in the mobility industry through networking, through surveys like this one, like education sessions like this one. So just trying to stay up to date. With the Core Flex approach, we have taken an agile approach where we make refinements more frequently than maybe we did in the past. So we are making those small changes ongoing as we learn, what's being used, what's not being used, what are we spending. So we're making those kind of on an ongoing basis. So not necessarily as big of a policy update, but very frequent policy updates, but not a set schedule.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I was chatting with Joey earlier, and she actually mentioned that when she gets the surveys or she gets these pieces of content, it is like a trigger for her. And actually, we're doing a policy review for Hexcel currently. So it is something that just that relative information and being agile in that mindset as well to always kind of figure out where's the right time and place to look at certain components, right?
So
apologies, Terry. I am on the line. I had to join late because I had a bit of an emergency this morning.
That's okay. We thought they were gremlins in your computer. That's absolutely fine. But one of the things I wanted to maybe go back to you, Joey, on is we talked about the employee experience earlier, and I would have loved for you to be able to share some of the quick hits that you had, because I thought those are
Sure.
very interesting. Maybe just share a little bit about yourself and share that with us.
Sorry. So apologies for running late. As ever in global mobility is a never-ending sort of a fire drill, and I was trying to fix. Quick introduction. My name is Joey Ching. I'm the global mobility manager at Hexcel. I've been in the industry for 15 years. Prior to Hexcel, I was a consultant working at Ernst & Young and KPMG. So I have a consultancy background, specializing in sort of payroll compliance and tax. And to answer your question about the employee engagement, we had a lot of quick wins. Thank you to Cartus. At Hexcel, we had introduced a lump sum policy that didn't exist before I joined. And one of the things that I've been promoting is using the Cartus portal. So the concept of duty of care. So rather than just giving a lump sum cash, we give them a lump sum cash, but we also give them access to the portal that does vendor referrals. And I emphasize on duty of care because it's above and beyond, right? You're giving them a tool, you're giving them a budgeting tool, you're giving them access to Carter's preferred vendors, you're giving them access. I think there is kind of a location summary. You can use Google, but it's nice to have a one-stop shop. A bit of a promotion, Terry, I guess, for Cartus, but we've seen it work successfully, and it is cost-efficient way to add value. I want to emphasize that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice because when they get into our system, they actually can use the dynamic timelines personally, et cetera. So it's really, I'm really glad that you're finding value in that. And I didn't pay Joey to say that. So I did want to get a little bit into data analytics because I know that that was important to the respondents in the survey, and really trying to access critical data points that support understanding not just what is happening in mobility, but what's happening in their talent acquisition and engagement across the organization. And it's not just cost reporting that they're talking about. So I was wondering if that's something that you would agree with. And then if it is, how are you harnessing your organization's available data to improve your mobility in the domestic area? And that can be any of you can jump in on that. It's a free for all now.
I could talk a little bit and then I'll hand over the other two. We do a lot of data-driven decision making, whether it be from reporting from Cartus. So for example, we do exception tracking via Cartus, and whenever there's an exception to policy, we track it through Cartus, and at the end, that may drive reasons to relook at policy. If you start approving every exception, it's no longer an exception, right? So that kind of drives some of the policy review. Internally, in terms of talent management, we use Workday at Hexcel, and we have fields in Workday that talks about career aspirations if someone's willing to relocate. So when we try to identify people or candidates, not candidates, internal employees that may be ready for the next move, we also look at that data. So we look at our total population, do cuts on demographics, and then if they tick that box, willing to relocate, and it even breaks down into domestic or international.
Anybody else?
Anna?
I love that.
You know, I think, as I've said, regarding communication, before I joined Textron, I think a lot of the business units weren't as aware as to what their costs were, or their volume, or their employee satisfaction with our relocation program. So last year I implemented an executive summary type report that I present to my day-to-day contacts in each business unit, just to share with them, this is what your program's doing. They have other jobs. They're not sitting there looking at what their mobility spend is. So I just provide them an overview of who they've been moving, what the cost has been, overall satisfaction, how our home sale program is working for their employees, and you know how we're doing collecting their employees that have termed that are repaying their relocation. So it's been very well received because I think they're more in the know as to what's going on with their relocation process. So it's pretty good. That's
incredibly helpful. I wonder, Amy, I know you're going to speak to this as well. I'm interested to know, are there data points like in your organization, they may tie to mobility, but I think they also tie to kind of that talent career pathing. Tell me a little bit
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that. Yeah.
absolutely. We have a lot of dashboards today, but we actually pretty far along the process. We're from an HR perspective implementing what we're calling a talent intelligence platform. So it allows HR business partners and managers to be able to access all kinds of data. It's data that's in our HR system. It's data that is coming from suppliers like Cartus, and our reward programs, and a lot of that comes into one place. They can run all kinds of custom reports. We're not fully implemented, but we're pretty far along. It's very exciting, and it gives that information directly to our HR business partners and managers out in the different businesses. So we're really excited about that and looking to kind of enhance that as we move forward. Similar to what Anna said, I have started to do like a very high level sharing of information with our HR leaders, just so they know kind of what's happening from a mobility perspective. So sharing just a very high level dashboard with them each year, so they know the top locations where we're moving people, what we're spending, the number of moves, and all those types of things. So that's been very helpful. And as I mentioned before, some of the data that's very important to me from Cartus ongoing is information around benefit utilization and spend.
Yes.
So with the employee choice approach, we want to know, like, what do people like? What are they choosing? What are we spending on those benefits? Do we need to make adjustments? And I think that helps us to continue to enhance and maybe, hopefully streamline our policies even more in the future.
Yeah, I love that you use the term employee choice. You're not the only person that said that recently. I actually think Core Flex needs to be, backburnered, and it should be employee choice. That's very employee centric. I love it. So I would actually like to pause and ask each of you, what would be your one stellar wow? I know it's a survey. What would you say is your big takeaway from the survey? Joey, can we start with you? I think you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah.
It's the classic pandemic comment, right? You're on mute.
Yeah.
I think something that
Making
stood
sure.
out to me was the fact that things are kind of picking up. It kind of slowed down during the pandemic, but mobility is still at the forefront. And I've seen it anecdotally at my company, even as we're kind of recovered out of the pandemic. Mobility and relocations are kind of key when we're trying to recruit talent. We still have these offers as part of the offer letter to relocate people, and that kind of aligns with what the survey was saying. I was interested to see that international was kind of up as well, which is a little bit different to what I'm seeing at Hexcel. But overall, the fact that it's still at the forefront, it's still an important issue that is going to be ramping up. We project in the next couple of years that is going to come. All that bottleneck before is going to come forward.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I would agree. I think that as much as we felt like mobility was hit hard, and it was, I do think that profitable growth is still really important. And I think you just using your talent smartly is also going to engage them further and make more of a commitment. So Amy, maybe we'll just shoot over to you on that one.
Yeah, I think one of my big takeaways or most interesting points were that looking at the mobility priorities and the mobility challenges, it was very relatable to me. So it's good to see what other companies, what other mobility leaders are facing, and a lot of it is the same as what I'm facing. So that was really interesting to see to me. Very good information.
Excellent. And how about you, Anna?
I was actually surprised to see the number 3, or the third reason why offers were turned down was due to spouse partner employment issues. I believe that it's attributed to the 34% of the respondents who said they didn't offer any additional benefits to encourage employees to accept the moves. Spouse partner career assistance here at Textron is a standard offering in all of our core policies. And maybe that's why I just haven't seen it as a prevalent issue here, because our employees are accepting the offers and they've got that benefit.
Yeah, and I do think it's interesting because I know when I was in the account management side, wearing that hat not long ago, the spousal partner assistance programs were not necessarily highly utilized. But now the programs actually have spanned out, and the way that they approach the partner in transition is really more about how do you assimilate with the value you bring and the skill set you bring and what you're interested in. You may not want to get another job. You may want to get involved in the social environment. You may want to volunteer. You may want to be an entrepreneur. There are so many things to inspire a partner depending on the location they're going to. And I think that that's something that we'll see a change in. So thank you for mentioning that. Yeah.
I think that also engages them to be more present in the whole process, right?
Yeah.
They're feeling like they're not the relocating employee, but they are an active member of the entire process. So I think that's good.
And a vital component to the success of the overall move. Family's
Absolutely.
happy. Yeah, know what? The employee can focus on work. Great. Thank you. Go ahead, Amy. Did you have another thing to say?
No, I was just agreeing with you. I said exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I think what we'd like to do, I think we're at a point where we can probably start taking a few questions. So I don't know. I'm going to actually pop over to in and out of Q&A and see what I can find. We also had a few questions that were presented as folks registered. So we'll do our best to get to as much as we possibly can and make this just an open, fun part of the segment here. So somebody posted here, can you repeat that about the 2%? So I think that might have been Anna when you were talking about your home sale programs and what you were doing with, I don't know if it was appraisals or, yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
You know better than I do.
Absolutely. So when the realtors provide their broker price opinion to us, they come up with a most probable sale price. And we take the average of the two, MP, SP, and the employee can list 2% above that dollar amount. That helps us ensure that they're pricing accurately so that we can hopefully get an acceptable offer on the home. Then when the employee gets their appraised value offer, usually about 45 days after they've listed their home, they have to reduce their price to within 2% of whatever that appraised value offer is as well. Again, I was just trying to, bring some of these values down to earth, since we know in the 2021s, 2022s, properties were flying off the shelf sight unseen, and that's not happening any longer.
Yeah, I know there's that ebb and flow again, right?
Yep.
The longer you've been in it, the more often you've kind of ebbed and flowed through these situations and know how to handle them, or think you know how to handle them. So one of the pre-submitted questions, I'll just pop that out here and I'll open that up. So one of them is, how do you separate work versus personal life support with relocating employees? Anybody can jump in on that one. It wasn't directed to anyone. Separate work versus personal life support. I can start us off. I think that because I think this kind of comes into play more because of the fluidity and the way that people are working, and the fact that now that there are a lot of people that work remotely or hybrid, not everyone, but there is they're more in touch with the overall life balance, which we always talked about life balance before, but people are really trying to strive for, when I have life balance, I'm actually more productive. It's like when I clean off my desk, I can actually get more done. If I go for a walk, I can clear my head and I can work harder, right? So that really is that fine line of where your responsibility is as an organization to contribute to that. And I know that, Amy, you talked about wellness components, but what does that drive for each of you?
Yeah, I'll just go ahead. Yeah, for us, it is really that offering more benefits that we didn't offer before under our traditional relocation programs that do support more of a lifestyle transition. So those, that's one way we help with that, with different types of benefits that can support the family, the employee, spouse, kids, in their transition. So that's one way we support that with flexibility.
Yes, with
And I was just
listening
going to say,
too. Yeah, go
I was
ahead.
going to say the same thing. Though we don't have it actually written into our policies, we've just taken a more flexible approach, knowing that every relocating employee has everybody's got a different situation. So we just take that into account and we determine what would be the best option for them based on their specific needs.
Yeah, and I think trying to balance that with equitable treatment across employees. So if you have a mindset, if you have an approach that you take, a culture, I guess I would call it, if that's known, then that works out very smoothly for you. So thank you for that. There was another question. It was more around assessing if an employee is the right fit for a domestic relocation. I know internationally we have like a candidate assessment process that we can put them through. It's actually a formal program, or there are other avenues you can go down. When you think about domestically, Joey, you and I were talking about this a little bit. What are some of the things that you think about when you think about fit?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it earlier. Within Workday, there is like a talent management section that the employee fills in as part of their performance reviews or goal setting. And it talks about relocating as something that they would be interested in. In addition to that, for a successful relocation, if there's been several internal candidates for a position that's posted and that will require them to relocate, we usually do like a look or a pre-decision trip to ensure a successful match, right? Other ideas that have come up organically have been short business trips to see if this person would enjoy either the position, the role, or the location, because it is it is a big undertaking to upheal and move your whole family, your whole life to another location, even if it's domestically within the US. So those are just some
Absolutely.
ideas.
Thank you. Yeah, and I would also say I've seen companies, and I've worked with several of them, where we actually craft or create for more difficult locations, where there might be more resistance. We actually create a lot of content around that destination, creating awareness, inspiring things, trying to make it fun, exciting, and relatable. So those are some wonderful, wonderful thoughts.
One thing that we've done at Textron is for remote areas, we've worked with local destination service provider there to help us establish a one-pager that we can share with employees that are considering moving to that location, just so they can see what the rental apartments are like, see what amenities each community offers. So that's been helpful as well. And we're actually going to be updating one of our locations this summer as well.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So one of the other pre-submitted questions, I don't see it posted here, but I'll just go through the ones that I received. One of the participants was asking about home purchase commissions. I don't know if you want to come on and chat about that. I'm assuming you're talking about the NAR settlement in the United States. Is that correct? You can give me a thumbs up if you want to. So making that assumption, I know it's hard to find the buttons sometimes. I will say that in the survey, we did ask a little bit about that, and the majority, 91%, basically said they had not made any thoughtful changes to policy. You're all shaking your head.
Yeah.
It really is a wait and see. We don't know if there's going to be a lot of influence changing, kind of the way that sellers and buyers actually act with one another in a negotiation. To have the buyer representation is not something new for many states, have had it for years. So it's really just those states where it's a little bit newer. It's that disclosure, making sure everyone's on the same page before you get started. So if we do see any movement there, we'll certainly share that out as quickly as possible. Anybody have a comment about that?
I mean, I could say from our perspective, we didn't add anything to our policy. We just added some verbiage regarding the broker commission on the purchase side, since our policy was pretty robust and it covered a certain percentage of based on the purchase price, we felt like we had enough of a buffer to cover commission if needed.
Yeah, we've taken let's review them if they come up, and then we'll, as trends emerge, we'll decide if we need to update policy. But so far, we haven't seen that.
Yeah. Again, I think it's going to be really important to help the employees understand the full transaction, selling and buying, also weaving in that mortgage component. So there's not a rush to panic in any area, that you just figure it out smartly with one another and let our counselors and our brokers help them through that thought process.
Exactly.
I
think
like that a
Cartus
lot.
has created some documentation to help with education for that. So that's helped a lot too.
Yeah, and if we need to look at that, we'll certainly continue to look for opportunities to share thought leadership in that area. So I appreciate that. I will say that, for both the US and Canada, mortgage rates are a topic, but they have stabilized. I think the Canada rates are pretty nice, actually, but I can't buy anything there right now. So maybe by January 2027. There are some exceptions. I'm hearing that there was an amendment in that change pushing that period out, that if you are a resident who's there for more than 183 days, I think there's some immigration related requirements you may be able to. So speak to the local authorities in Canada to see what test the waters there. There was another question around managing cross-border compensation and short-term relocations for commuting assignments. They're getting requests to move to U.S. salary. So I believe that that particular question came possibly from an organization that has project-related work. I don't know if that participant wants to come on and speak about that. This is a low pressure situation here.
If they are interested in getting on camera or speaking, they can just raise their hand and I can turn them on.
Absolutely. There's a hand. Hi, Shireen. Hopefully you've been unmuted.
Yes.
Right now I'm
Okay.
allowed to unmute. Hi.
There
Thanks.
you are.
Yes, that was my question. Thanks for asking it. That's great. We're a management consulting firm and we work with primarily oil and gas clients. So you're right, that's project-based work. So we do have people that are assigned to places like Chevron or Shell, and it's for 3 months or 6 months. And working in recently, I just had this yesterday, someone working in Alaska and had asked that exact question: can I be transferred to US dollars?
So, Joey, I know you're my KPMG and E&Y person. Do you want to jump in? I have an answer, but I like yours better usually.
No, that's totally fine. I just want to add a clarifying question. So across borders, are we talking country? We're not talking state cross-border, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So again, there's different tax and immigration requirements, especially for project work. So my first flag when these kind of questions come up is, are we compliant from an immigration standpoint? Are they allowed to work there? And then second is, are they going to trigger tax liability, right? And each case is different. A lot of international companies may have like a commuter program or a short-term assignment. It can become quite expensive. There's usually some guidance or policy around the de minimis, because usually if it's a short-term assignment, it's usually over 3 months and it's very clear cut and they're staying in corporate apartment and they have a per diem. It's very black and white. But what you're kind of alluding to is they do a few weeks here, they go back, they do another month here, they come back. And usually there's guidelines that are worked out with corporate tax, with mobility, with the business leaders and what their needs are to kind of ring fence. So recently, at Hexel in the past, we've had like IT projects, or when they're trying to do a new site. So they take subject matter experts from one site and they're standing up a new site. So for example, we opened Morocco a couple of years back, and there was a similar thing. We had to do the And we knew it was project-based. So we upfront did the review of, well, what talent do we need there? How long do we need it there for? And what is the risk? There's a bit of a risk assessment from a tax and immigration standpoint. Does that answer your question? It was very specific and case by case. Larger companies have more robust actual policy in place. I don't know
Yeah,
if
it doesn't. I think I was just trying to understand what other people are doing because we found it only challenging in the past year. And we do have a combination of both. They're not really rotating in and out. So people are actually going there for 6 months to 12 months
Right.
to live.
Right.
And so we generally keep them on a home salary and give them allowances. But with the currency exchange, that's definitely changed how people view what they're
So
getting
in
paid.
in that case,
And it's
sorry, go ahead.
it's just become very tricky. And I
Yeah.
was wondering how other people manage that because
So specifically for the FX, it would be a cost of living allowance to account for that. Terry, do you guys agree? Like
Yeah.
if it was something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I did check with my comp team as well, and they did agree that they typically keep them on the home payroll. And then they just supplement with index and allowances, COLA or per diems if it's a short term. Absolutely.
We have
yeah.
at times, Terry, sometimes we do pay the allowances like the cost of living allowance or the per diem in the host country.
Yes.
So in the US in this example. So we might do that to try to get them more cash in the host location. We won't transfer the payroll, but we'll try to get their cash payments made to them through the host country.
So hopefully that was helpful to you. If there's something further, we're happy to try to help you look into it. And then there was also a question you had about state to state taxes. So I'm just going to take this very briefly because this can go all over the place. But I did check just our payroll team. We do have clients, obviously, that are working through that dynamic. Usually it's and I would say most popular is destination. And so sometimes the client will hold the payroll until there is that transition in their HRIS system. If it's nearer to year end, they may have to make a call, right? So that's really what we see most frequently. I see some heads nodding. And then the second piece is really around the Tax Act, which really applies to the US, right? So we know that there are a few states that are non-conforming. So you have the federal side and then you have the state side. And we do have clients that may look to segregate that and comply with the non-conforming. But even in those states, many of our clients stayed with, they know, go ahead and tax because they'd rather not have to go back if that tax law changes and revisit that. So I don't know if that helps you as well. All right, and then another one we had is what changes are we seeing around relocation with the uncertainty in the economy due to tariffs and threats? With tariffs and threats, less interest in moving perhaps. So I think, again, the US seems to make a lot of noise in these spaces. And it really is, again, another situation where it's a moment in time. And I did check with my supply chain and from that perspective, and I also checked the Parsifal sites, and we are not, from a domestic perspective, impacted by that. We're not seeing any challenges with containers, availability, surcharges, and things of that sort of delays. If we do, I would imagine that we may go through a period similar to the pandemic where there were some additional fees or charges that got tacked on to navigate the situation, but really no news is probably good news right now. We know things have been pushed out a bit. Hopefully everything gets resolved, but we'll certainly be looking to post content around that topic more frequently as changes occur. So I hope that helps everyone. I didn't see any other questions.
Yeah,
So,
Terry,
yeah,
we actually
go right ahead.
We have several questions about home sale bonuses in particular, and people wanting to hear more about spousal support being offered as a core benefit. So if anyone has home sale bonus insights, throw those out there.
All right, very good. I think that the team here can take that, and I don't know why I didn't see the question. Oh, now it's scrolling. Go right ahead.
I mean, from a home sale, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Amy.
I was going to say probably similar to Textron, but I'll be interested what you have to say as well, Anna. But we offer a home sale bonus to our employees who are eligible for a guaranteed buyout. So for those employees, they sell their home, they get a certain percentage of the sales price in a cash bonus that's taxable to them, and it decreases based on within the first 30 days. Within the second 30 days. So they have 60 days to make a sale, and they get a home sale bonus that helps us to keep the home out of inventory. We have really pretty low inventory historically and currently as well. So that has helped us to incentivize employees a little bit more to get their home sold and not let it come into inventory.
And I agree 100% with what Amy just said. So,
and I would say, yeah, go ahead, Anna.
In addition to our guaranteed buyout program, we also offer a lower percentage incentive to our BVO policy employees as well. Again, we just want to incent them to get in the new location faster.
Yeah, and I will say that although not a lot of companies are supporting on the BVO side, the buyer value option side, because there really are marketing activities that should, and we're also in a market environment where those sales were happening relatively quick. If they run into a difficult buyer's market where those sellers are really struggling, that might be something that is thought about again. It's an ebb and flow, but we also put sliding scales in place and some parameters. So you're not just funding that in every situation, right? And we really are so excited that all of you joined us today. We appreciate your time. Again, knowing how busy everyone is. I know a few folks had to drop off, but this will be a recorded session. And I want to thank my panelists. You were amazing. Congratulations, we did it.